Hey everybody, welcome to another video. We're on week 20 of my Marvel comic series, not week 20 of 2025. I don't know, I'm speaking about it, so like, no, but week 20 of 1985. So we're going all the way back 40 years ago to talk about comic books that came out this week 40 years ago. Because that's my time. I mean, I started collecting comics the summer of 1984. Actually since the late 70s, but I really only paid attention to like the Star Wars comic, which we'll get to in this video. Battlestar Galactica, Shogun Warriors, and Micronauts. I really only liked like the toy tie-ins. I really didn't get into the superhero comics per se. I had a couple of Spider-Man, a couple of Fantastic, whatever was the cartoon was on at the time, a couple of Batman comics, but I really wasn't paying attention to comics. And hold on a second, here it comes. They cut my lawn every Tuesday, right? This is Comic Book Wednesday, so I make my videos on Wednesday, and I had to kind of wait a little longer too, which they usually cut it before noon on Tuesday. Now that I'm recording my videos, why don't they just cut the lawn right while I'm doing my video? Of course. Why not? Why? They're almost done. At least I thought they were. And of course, after the initial pass of the lawnmower, then I'll have the weed whipper guy come right up against my window here, which is literally right behind the camera, and then hit the window. So if you hear crazy noises, it's not the sky isn't falling. The apartment complex isn't come crumbling down. I'm on the bottom floor. The Hobbit hole, as I call it. Yeah, so bear with me on that one. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do it? Sorry. I find myself saying that a lot lately. Why wouldn't they? Why not? Anyways, back to the topic at hand. So like I said, we're going back to 1985, which again was the year I started, essentially. I mean, you want to consider the 1985 the beginning of the modern age. Of course, now we found out it's called the Copper Age. I'm starting here to do the bulk of my series. I did go back and do this on my own back for 1984, and I'm running into a lot of the same problems this year as I ran into that year, and we'll get to these as I go, and of course I'll tell you about it in my final wrap-up. But let's jump into this. So we are going to May, this would be week 20 of May 1985. And of course, bear with me, I'm recording this a week early, so I'm technically recording this in week 19, which I just posted in week 19 today, last week. So I'm doing that just to kind of keep... I think I'm going to get another bump because there's another month coming up where there's nothing coming out. I'm not sure exactly what was going on with that one, but anyways, let's flip over to this site. So like I said, I use this site. I talk about this every week. I use Fandom for pretty much a lot of my comic-related databasing. And again, I don't know how to get to this site, this particular page from, or any of these pages from the search engine within the site. I guess you put week 20, maybe it pops up. I don't know, but I've been just doing it through Google. I just put in, like, say, week 20, Marvel Comics 1985, whatever year you want to put. Every year's in here. And then fandom.com. And this page should pop up, or whatever page you looked up within the weeks or years should pop up. So if you get to this point, you're in good, because you can navigate through here. You can go to any year, just keep going, scrolling forward or scrolling backwards. You can go to any month. So, and yes, they do have a DC one, and I was going to start doing one DC a month because they only have them by month, not by week. Man, I really did not like DC Comics at this time. I mean, I could sit there and talk ad nauseum about the DC Who's Who, but that's pretty boring. And I could talk about, I don't know, nothing really came out at this particular time. It wasn't until 1986 that something like The Dark Knight, or Watchmen started, which I have my feelings on those as well. But let's go back to this. So let's stay on topic and stay with these comics. So this is everything. And again, as I always say, let's exclude any UK productions because obviously I couldn't get those back then. And we'll disregard any, I don't think there's any in this. Is there? No, luckily there's none. No Star imprints, which are like the little kid stuff, like, like the Ewoks and Strawberry Shortcake, stuff like that, were the Star imprints. They did do like Silverhawks, and again, the thing is, I noticed that, outside of Transformers and G.I. Joe, after 1985, in 1985 specifically, I kind of got out of all the kiddie cartoons. I just didn't like them. I didn't want to be caught. I really didn't want to be caught watching G.I. Joe or Transformers, but that was okay in comparison. Maybe not in 85. Well, yeah, in 85, there was an issue. And also on the flip side of the kiddie side, the more adult comics, like Alien Legion, as you see it there in Epic Comics, they got the Epic titles. I really didn't care for those either. So it was, I guess, I was the target demographic. I mean, this would be May of 1985. I was still 11. Actually, comic books at this time came out right on my birthday back then. No. Sorry, that was June. I turned 12 in 1985, in July of 1985. So it would have been week 29, because the 17th was Wednesday, so 18. Oh wow, my birthday was on Friday that year. It was the summer, so every day is Halloween. Every day is Christmas at that time when you're just out of elementary school, because my elementary school went 1st through 6th grade, and I didn't start junior high until 7th grade, which I would be doing that this fall of 1985. So I guess this hit at the perfect time, because I didn't like the kiddie stuff, Ewoks, stuff like that, Richie Rich, and I didn't like the really adult stuff that I just kind of didn't get, because it was too mature for me. So I guess what I'm saying is comic books in the 80s, and I don't know about now, which I'll get to a certain situation now. But I guess superhero comic books, like the main line of Marvel, including, say, G.I. Joe and Transformers, was, I guess, right for my demographic. It's like dead on. It wasn't kiddie, it wasn't adult, it was right there in the that teen, tweens into teenage group. And that's when this stuff came out, and that's how old I was back then. So it's perfect. I was going to say, as far as like my son's 13, I had him when I was 39, so I'm a late dad. But anyways, he's 13 now, and he's still in 7th grade, so he's kind of like 39. Yeah, he'd be 39 years ago. I would be at the same point he was at now, which I was right in the thick of this, and it would have been 1986. I really can't get him to read comic books. He doesn't really show any interest in it. However, he really likes the Invincible cartoon, and we watched all of the Invincible on Amazon Prime. So now he's like, Dad, can we go to the comic book shop? I want to get the Invincible comics. And then we were with my buddy at the time who happened to have all of the compendiums, all 3 compendiums, and he said, hey, if you want those, I've got them, let me know, I'll go home and get them. So he gave him the compendium, so now he has all of it. He can sit there and read. And I'm hoping he's reading it. I'm hoping he's interested in that aspect of it. I'm not a huge Invincible fan, and it has a lot to do with The Dark Knight. It has a lot to do with Watchmen, and it has a lot to do with, Walking Dead, Kirkman specifically. I always thought, for some reason in my head, when the Invincible came out in like the mid-2000s, I always assumed it came out in the 90s, and I thought it was by Alan Moore. Because didn't Alan Moore do like an Image comic of superheroes in the 90s? I can't remember off the top of my head what that was. So I just assumed, Invincible, it's that Alan Moore thing from the 90s. No, it's Kirkman. Who I like about as much as I like Alan Moore. And it came out in the 2000s. So I was like, regardless, that's what caught his eye at his age, because that's the type of kids. Kids don't read comic books nowadays, but that specifically, and I guess he said there's another kid at school has those comics too, so they're there in a small minority of kids, which, ironically, you go back to 1985, the comic books were ironically, I keep saying that word, were a small group of kids. I mean, I could think of only 5 kids in my junior high that were actively reading like X-Men comics at the time. 5, maybe, out of all the kids. I used to come to school with the comics, and people would just be like, what is that? Why are you reading comics? Those are for kids. So, I guess times haven't changed, is what I'm saying. As much as I think times have changed dramatically, they haven't. By the way, I'm a little wired, because my Monster was sitting there while I was working this morning. I hadn't drank it, so I kind of chugged it at lunch, which I just had. I try not to yawn in this, but I think let's create a drinking game. I hate drinking games. But anyways, let's just create a drinking game. Every time I yawn, take a drink of whatever you got. Coffee, pop, tea. If you're boozing it up at this time, at whatever it is, 1:45 on a Wednesday, more power to you. Anyways, every time I yawn or get sleepy, take a drink. Anyways, so let's get back into it, because I always burn the first 20 minutes blabbing, so let's get into the comic books. So yeah, so like I said, we're going to disregard Alien Legion number 8. I'm going to try, I just can't get into it. And then also ElfQuest, which is like Gru was a Marvel/Epic title. At this time, specifically, my experience with ElfQuest was, I didn't know what it was back then. I know a lot of these were, but anyways, I kept seeing ElfQuest in like the graphic novels for like the original non-Marvel ones for ElfQuest at that Rochester Book Center back in the 80s, and I thumbed through it a little bit, and I just thought to myself, something I don't like about this. I don't think I can get into this. And again, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that, but it's just like, it seemed to be very girly. Like, ooh, this seems to be kind of girly. I don't know. It doesn't, I mean, it's not Strawberry Shortcake for little girls, but I mean, it just seems like, this is not written for me. It's not written for a boy of 11 years old. It's, people argue, yes, it is. But I mean, at that time, like I said, this is the 80s. This is, homophobia was massively a thing, and girls were not, at least not in Michigan, maybe in California, wherever the cool people were, they're reading comics, but girls were definitely not reading comic books in 1985. I can tell you that. When I said there were only 5 kids in my junior high that were reading comic books at the time, then I can tell you definitely none of those were females, except for like maybe one guy might have read his girlfriend at the time. He was kind of an older kid, even though he was in 9th grade. He seemed older. He had a girlfriend, and maybe she just seemed like the type. Maybe she would read comics with him. That's about it. Outside of those, they weren't. So, and like I said, when ElfQuest came out, I was just like, something about it. It seems girly to me. So I passed up ElfQuest. So we won't talk about ElfQuest. Fantastic Four number 281. That is right now, that's a very popular comic, obviously, because of the Marvel's Rivals game, putting Malice in the video game, that being Malice, which is the evil Sue Storm, Invisible Woman on the cover. I thought, I haven't read that in a very long time. When I get to that, it'll be fun, because that's popular right now. I mean, I guess these are like selling like hotcakes because of that game. I started reading it. I got to like page 3, and I was like, this is really boring. I really don't like this. I gotta say, as much as I loved Fantastic Four in the 80s, as much as I love She-Hulk in that Fantastic Four outfit, and I love John Byrne's art, I gotta say, this is one comic to me that does not live up to my childhood or my teenage fandom. I just can't get into it. I don't know, for some reason, it's just the Fantastic Four I just can't get into. Even with She-Hulk, I mean, it was just She-Hulk, which obviously later was Sensational She-Hulk, or the graphic novel actually came out this year. I I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, I love her in that outfit. I love She-Hulk in that outfit. I think that's so... It's hot. Anyways, at the same time, I'm like, I just can't get into it. And even the Malice thing, I just think is just like... I don't know. For some reason, that pushes all my... If you were to read my personal comic that I'm doing right now, you would see a lot of correlations between it, but for some reason I just couldn't get into this comic at the time. Maybe I'll give it another chance. I don't know. I gotta keep moving on with the comics. Here comes the lawnmower. Anyways, but yeah, I don't want to dwell on it, but I just couldn't get into it. I really can't tell you why. I started reading it, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Again, Iron Man, I'm not reading until issue 200 with the Ironmonger, because that's when I jumped on Iron Man, was issue 200 with Silver Centurion armor. That's what got me hooked on Iron Man for a short period of time. But the Defenders, again, I just can't get into the Defenders. I don't know why. Like, again, it was always those comics where you get the 3-pack, and that was the hidden comic in between. You get a Defenders comic, or you'd be at like a party store or something. They'd have a box of comic books on the floor, and they're like, like a dime a piece or quarter box essentially, and there'd be a lot of Defenders in there, and I would go, oh, if it had a cool cover, I'd pick it up for a quarter. Comics were only 65 cents at the time, but no, I just couldn't get into it. Again, we're gonna skip the Marvel. We're skipping a lot this week. Skipping a lot of Marvel Index because it's just an index. It is what it is. I didn't really pay attention to them back then. Peter Parker and Amazing Spider-Man, and Wasp is in it. Janet Van Dyne. I was ready, raring to go. I like Janet Van Dyne, and I knew she's probably going to get in skimpy clothes in this costume. Sure as the day is long. Sure as the day is long. Janet Van Dyne cannot keep her clothes on for very long, but we'll get to that. Rocket Raccoon. I already swore off this Rocket Raccoon limited series. I never collected it as a kid, and I just can't get into animal characters. Again, Jesus, does he have to keep going back? Sorry. Anyways, I don't like being interrupted. It makes me very aggravated very quick. I go like 0 to 60 with my anger. I've got anger issues. But anyways, it's going to come right. How many times do you need to mow? There's no grass out there. The snow was just here like a couple of weeks ago. How much grass is out there? Jesus Christ. Anyways, sorry. Rocket Raccoon. I just can't get into animal characters. I just didn't like animal characters at the time. I don't know. I just can't get into it. Sorry. Anyways, okay. Secret Wars 2, number 2. We read Secret Wars 1 last time. I talked about it. Secret Wars 2. There's She-Hulk in her Fantastic Four costume right on the cover. I know the story of Secret Wars 2. I think specifically, as I keep pulling out here, I'm sorry. Secret Wars 2, the module for Marvel Superheroes, the role-playing game from 1984. Well, actually, technically, this is 1985. This came out like a few months after. It might even came out in 86. Yeah, it came out in 86. So after Secret Wars was completed, then they did them. Obviously, why would they do the module while the comic book's going on? But anyways, I've got the module, and I read through the module a couple of times. I've never played this module. I wanted to. Never did, but read through it, read all the character bios, read all the scenarios, and so I know what happens in Secret Wars 2. Like I said, I don't know if I was talking about it before, but I collected Secret Wars 2 issue for issue as they came out on the shelf, including this one, and I never read it. I think the same thing happened then. I think I started to read it, And I was like, wow, this is not as good as Secret Wars 1. Obviously, I love Secret Wars 1. I've got posters all over my walls, including, of course, the classic number 8. You can see it over there, where Spider-Man gets his symbiote suit. That was the thing. That was one of the things that got me hooked on comic books, was that specific event. And that with Spider-Man. Loved Black Spider-Man. Still do. Probably going to switch these posters up and put up my Black Spider-Man costume posters from some of the comic books. But anyways, Secret Wars 2, I bought them. I flipped through them. The Beyonder showed up in other comic books at the time, as we'd noticed. But I gotta say, I just could not get through it. And I tried to read it. I read issue 1, and it was a tough read. And my friend actually said, hey, have you got the Secret Wars 2 yet? And I said, no, it's coming up. And he's like, oh, good luck with that. And he couldn't have been more than right. More right. It is a stinker of a comic. I like the concept. I like the things that are happening in it. I love... This is not Al Milgram's best work, by the way. Not that Al Milgram is great, and I have nothing against Al Milgram. Al Milgram, he takes a lot of crap. As I said, he's a workhorse like Sal Buscema. But this is not his best work. And Jim Shooter's writing is just... I don't know what's going on with his writing. It's all over. It's just like, woo! So I made it about 2 or 3 pages into Secret Wars 2, and I said, you know what? I think I'm quitting on it. Which, again, is another comic. How many comics? Like I said, we're going to get down to a small handful of comics, probably 5 comic books. You know, ongoing series, although this is a limited series. And if you exclude limited series of this year, I would say we're probably down to maybe 5 key title, not key, but ongoing series that I liked then, and I'm starting to realize that's what I like now. And actually, I could scratch off Fantastic Four because I just can't get into it. I'm even going to scratch off Peter Parker for now. I just can't get into it until maybe a good issue comes up, which I thought this might have been one. But we're going to skip the UK magazine. Okay, now the Star Wars comic I did read. And I don't know if I told you about this last week. This is inked by Al Williamson. And I think, I can't remember who the writer is. He's one of the EC writers, I think, is writing this. And Al Williams, of course, a big EC artist. He pencils it. Sorry, he pencils it. It's not a great comic. It's an okay comic for a Star Wars comic. But at the flip side of it, the artwork is amazing. So we'll get to that one. And Transformers UK, no. However, I did read Transformers number 7. I know I skipped 6. I just couldn't get into 6. 6 bored me for some reason. But picked back up with 7, and I think some of it has to do with the artwork being better. I can't remember who. We'll look up who's the artist on it, but the artwork is better. And of course, this leads up to issue 8, which is coming up, which is one of the comics that solidified my Transformers love in 1985 specifically. And it also, I'll get into the story, which remember I said I didn't want people to know that I was reading these kids comics in junior high, specifically Transformers. When I was in Transformers, I'll tell the story when 8 comes up. I've told it before in other videos, but I'll tell it again in that video. So we'll hold off on that one. However, we will talk about this comic. So, without spilling more time, 25 minutes, 23 minutes? 23 minutes, okay. Or just about 24. Okay, let's switch over, what am I doing here, to the comics. So, again, we'll flip through it real quick, just for the heck of it. Let's pull that up. Let's put it on full screen. And, sorry, I got a little stylus that keeps rolling around. The cover's fine. I'm not a big fan of the costume. I mean, I know what it's supposed to be, but whatever. I really don't like... This is all inked by Jerry Ordway. I don't like the inks. I think they're too scratchy at certain, like in the backgrounds and stuff. It's kind of like when what's his face? John Romita Jr. gets real scratchy with it, and all those, I mean, that crazy amount of action lines they did up there. I don't know if they're getting paid by the line or whatever, but Jesus, it's a lot of work to put all that in there. I just don't think it looks that great. Huge, which is odd because at the time, this is when they probably, Byrne probably was told by Shooter, he said, John, you doing all these photo stats of the of New York City and just putting them into the background of your comics. I think we need to start drawing the background. I'm assuming that might have happened, but yeah, I don't know. I couldn't get into it. And the Malice, Malice is there, and you've got the what the heck's his name? I cannot remember that villain's name. Not Mastermind. Is it Mastermind? I can't remember what his name is. Sorry, I've drawn a blank on that. The Malice head thing with all the spikes on it, like Pinhead, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's a great panel in the bottom there. I mean, I can appreciate parts of the artwork. I can appreciate it's Byrne. I mean, what can you expect? Like I said, it's a great bottom panel with Daredevil there, very caffy. He's got size 6 shoes though, I think. But anyways, I don't know why the girls like him so much. Anyways, he does this he shows up here. You got Storm here and here with his weird '80s haircut. You got typical Byrne background inside the Baxter building. So again, I believe he's drawing these backgrounds. Like I said, I think he probably got talked to about the overuse of photostatting. I mean, it makes sense, but he wanted, obviously it clashes a little bit with the illustrated look. You can use it, but you got to use it sparingly. There's Alicia Master. She's a photographer. Like I said, I don't remember the story per se. I mean, I vaguely remember what it was. I didn't reread it, so I couldn't tell you. It's not fresh in my mind. I don't know. Looking at it now, I guess I probably should have just finished reading it. I don't know. I still I don't know. I had trouble reading it, so I kind of skipped over that one this week. Okay, let's go back to Secret Wars 2. I'm going to pull it up, even though I gave up. I'll show you when I gave up, too. I started reading this whole wall of text here, and I don't have anything against the wall of text. So there's some of that photo statting. So what's his face? Milgram was just photo statting that. Obviously, the Twin Towers, just tell you how dated it is. One of the World's Trade Centers there is on the side, and that's hand-drawn with the Beyonder on top, and then that's a photo-statted background on the bottom. I'm assuming that this photo was probably taken from the other tower, and then because it was so close to the camera, it probably looked very photography, and they didn't want it to look so much, so they're like, hey, draw the building because it's right there, so you get the perspective right. But the rest of it, that's fine. Use the photostat. And in that regard, I don't mind. It looks fine. This panel looks fine. But all this bright yellow captions of narration is just like, ugh. And I really do not like the Beyonder character. I mean, I don't like him. It's not like he's an evil character and he makes me mad like the governor in Walking Dead. Speaking of Kirkman. Anyways, but he doesn't make me mad like that. He's just so bland and boring. His omnipotent character, class 5,000, everything. I think that's what they gave him. Sorry, class 5,000 is the what do you call it? The how they rank for the role-playing game. That's why sorry if I use role-playing game terms and everything. It's because I'm used to the game. Where is the Beyonder's character? They have him in villains. Sorry, I should have looked at her book. I didn't even know I was going to grab this, but actually, I thought I might grab it. And I was like, I'm going to try not to grab it, and I grabbed it anyway. So, I don't know where his character sheet is. Oh no, here. Well, there's a picture of him, but I can't find the stats. It's in this book here, the character roster, the roster book. I'm just gonna look see if I can find it real quick. I'm just curious because, like I said, what do you do against a character that's got class? I think it's 5,000 is like the ultimate stat. Like nothing goes any higher than class 5,000 on the chart for hitting. You know, doing action chart. But or the universal table is what they used to call it. I don't see his character. It's got to be. It's probably in the main book when he shows up. I don't know. But anyways, everybody else seems to be in here. Just no Beyonder, Nebula, Armadillo, Thundersword. Oh, that Thundersword character. This guy is in there. Anyways, yeah. I mean, even this, I like how he's eyeballing this girl's action here as she walks by, so they make a comment about that. I thought that might catch my attention. No. I thought, what's her face? She-Hulk in her Fantastic Four costume would do it. Malice shows up in this, of course, because this issue obviously comes. It's the same week as the other issue, so. And they said it continues in, or, you know, events happen right after this in this particular issue. It may be because it's so tied into that issue, and I couldn't get in. I don't know what it is. I just like She-Hulk. That's all it comes down to. She shows up, and then when she's not in there, it's just like, oh, She-Hulk? No, She-Hulk. She-Hulk? No, She-Hulk. I guess I'm that simple. My lizard brain is that simple. I'm sorry. Alright, let's go through this. I don't have a fancy copy of this, but again, not a great drawing though. Who does the art? Luke McDonald. Don't know him very well. Peter David doing the writing, which is Peter David's writing's fine. Maybe it was just because I had a crappy, you know, scan of an actual comic. Not a nice fancy omnibus scan. Jan Van Dyne shows up. I don't know. For some reason, I mean, I've read some pretty boring Spider-Man stories, and this one, maybe it's the Paladin. I'm not a big fan of the Paladin. Artwork looks good. It's not bad art. Maybe I should try to give this a second chance. And there's, of course, Janet. A great drawing of her, you know. Really nailed the face and the hair. Always grabbing Janet down there at the bottom. What's he gonna do? There I figure there she goes. She loses her clothes. She got transformed. She shrinks down to her wasp size. Now she's down to her whatever that is, lingerie, negligee. I don't like the word negligee. He's kind of. It sounds like some old guy would say, "Oh, she was wearing a negligee," just like the garment thing. If you remember from last video, garments, negligee. I just don't like that word. Whatever she's wearing, she's obviously. Oh, then she grows. You know, she biggins back to you know, regular size, and then. She's got to be sitting there with her whatever. I guess that's all I really. There's Elfquest. That's all I really needed to know is Janet Van Dyne gonna lose some clothes and then be half naked through the rest of the comic? Yes, she is actually. By the way, that's all you need to know. Don't need to pay attention to the rest of the story. Anyways, okay. The only two comics I read this week are Star Wars '98. And Transformers #7. I mean, that's a very iconic cover. Not the great cover, but iconic. And let's get into this. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So this is Al Williamson, his pencils. Inked. Actually, he's inked it too, because he inks a lot of his own work. So he's doing all of the artwork in there. Not color. Glennis Oliver, who's classic. It's Glennis becomes Glennis Ween. I believe it's the same person as Len Wein, or however you say his name, his wife. This is basically, obviously, pre-marriage. I'm assuming that's the same person, unless there's just two Glynises in there. But anyways, but his wife was also a colorist. That's why I'm assuming it's the same person. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. It's part of my 80s bullpen lore. I can't remember all of it. Anyways, this is Williamson, and just look at that. I mean, the first panel's okay, but look at that second panel, right? You've got 3 different planes, and I mean, Buscema was great at this too. Those classic anybody who does like that classic style knows. You know, you put that. You got this Akbar character. I don't think that's actually Akbar, but one of the Mon Calamari officers, and then you've got this other officer who. Oh, he's got the rebel soldier helmet on. I thought this looked like a death squad for a minute, but anyways. And then you got Han Solo trying to get away from this other guy, and he's knocking over alien food. And you got these aliens, and the people in the background, and you got this nice, whatever, attractive woman back there. I thought better if she was in the foreground with her butt to the camera instead of the Mon Calamari butt. Anyways, that's a class. I mean, that's perfect. You know, a double page spread. You know, his double page spreads are okay. You know, and he's not the worst when it comes to doing. I mean, like you could see that most of those ships are probably all photo refed. This is by 1985, so Jedi's been out. So there's plenty of models and there's plenty of stuff to ref at this point. But some of those older Star Wars comics, they didn't have a lot to photo ref the ships, so they kind of just made them up, and they look wonky. And this also is after the Empire adaptation that he did, and it's also after the Return of the Jedi, which I have adaptation, which I've also made a video on. But it's good stuff. I mean, obviously that second panel's refed. A lot of that's probably refed off of the scene where Han and Lando have that exchange in Jedi. You know, he's like, that's very. He's nailed the. I mean, he's obviously really paying attention to the film and the actors and stuff, and he's really nailed some of their, mannerisms really well. Again, you got that little alien guy's little crazy. Looks almost like a pod racer. This little crazy alien, and the way like Glynis, not just Glynis, but a lot of colorists at the time is they would just make them all one black color because your focus. It's there for like depth. And it's there for visual noise, which it does really well, but it's not. The characters get more color passes because they're obviously the focus of that panel and the focus of the comic. So, Nine Numb gets a little bit of a color pass here because he's a supporting character, but, a great shot there of Han walking into those doors, the silhouetting like that, and then you get this close-up, which looks pretty close to Harrison Ford at the time, give or take. But I mean, you should, if you ever want to see something just jaw-dropping, is look, and this is pretty to me this is jaw-dropping. It might not be your cup of tea, but look at Al Williamson's Flash Gordon stuff, including he does an adaptation of the movie, the 1980 movie, Flash, he does that. Look at that, that's just Ornella Moody, the way he draws her in the, oh my god, this get out of town. That's just amazing artwork. And I've got a book, not a shelf, but I got a digital book of it, where it's got, I'm going to make a video on this at some time, but it's got all the Flash Gordon stuff in it by him, and it's all in black and white, and I don't think they colorized. I think some of that stuff was, I think they colorized it. But the black and white is just so much better. I mean, I don't have any problem with Glynis's coloring or just the Marvel coloring, but it is a little distracting. It looks great on a printed page, in a comic book, but when you see like the black and whites, I don't know, it really does something for me. I mean, obviously with that red on that girl's outfit makes it stand out. So in a nutshell, he's got to go and he's got to pick up these two characters. It's basically a sister, a teenage girl, and her young adolescent brother. cute girl, though. And they drew her really cute. So, you know, he's always picking his nose, and, you know, he's always doing the classic, don't wipe his nose, don't get snot on my Millennium Falcon type of thing. Great acting here. I mean, this was visual storytelling, and doing visual acting is great. You know, and you know, and they drew her. She's a teenage girl. I'm just going to guess 15, 16 years old. So they drew her to look like a 15, 16-year-old girl. They didn't make her look like, you know, an adult woman. You can just tell, not just by the size, like her height, but just she looks like a teenage girl. You know, obviously. And this one thing is, a lot of people cannot draw kids, and that looks like a kid. It looks like me. The funny thing is, that looks like my sister and me, who, well, my sister is 8 years older than me, so when I looked like that, I was probably 5 or 6, 8, yeah, she'd be around 15, 16. My sister would have been at the same time. My sister had brown hair, not the black hair, but that's like me and my sister right there. Little Timmy. Little Timmy down there, sucking his thumb, getting snot all over. It was a little towhead bowl cut, as you can see. You know, I had the towhead as a kid. Anyways, there's this. There's still remnants of the Empire out there, and there's still some shade. You gotta have that. I mean, you know, this is after Jedi, but you can't get rid of the Empire totally. You know, and they do the classic thing where there's like there's like these small pockets of them left over. That's great. That silhouette is awesome. You got Han doing the crazy dive, the kids flying, the girls flying. It's just great looking. Great upper panel going through the asteroid fields. I mean, like I said, if all of the Star Wars comics were done by Al Williamson, I gotta say, and they had just a little bit better writing, because the writing does get a little wonky. Like, it's a lot wonky. I mean, they would have had is just as popular as G.I. Joe or Transformers. And arguably it was at one point prior to those comics. But, you know, like I said, I just love this guy's artwork. And it's not, I wouldn't really even consider it Marvel house style. I mean, this is like the classic, I guess it's almost EC, like good EC comic, not the bad stuff, or the questionable stuff, but good EC comics. I mean, and again, you got Buscema, or Buscema, how do I want to say it, John, the brother, Big John. You know, his stuff's right in the same, he's cut from the same cloth. I mean, I think Williamson's a little older than him. But, and I've seen Williamson ink Buscema stuff. Oh, God, that's good stuff. But again, this comic book art, I would say by far is probably some of my favorite of all times. I just love the way it's done. It's got that classic Flash Gordon look, which it should, because it's Star Wars, which is, you know, that's why Lucas made it. Great upper panel with her in that shot there. Great work on her hair, like that kind of set, you know, that 80s kind of feathered look to it. You got little Timmy over there. Little Timmy! He's got his pillow. I wish I had some nice little white boots like that when I was a kid. All I have is moon boots. You remember moon boots? Moon boots and mud puddles. That's all I gotta say. They didn't get along. Especially moon boots that weren't after the second day you've worn moon boots on cement or on a stony kind of rough blacktop at an old elementary school, and you've worn holes in the bottom of the moon boots, then you go step in a mud puddle with those moon boots, it's done. Luckily we delivered papers back then. We had the paper the baggies that would go on the Tribune papers. I used to put those, because they didn't have refrigerator bags back then, I used to put those over my socks and then slip my socks into the moon boots to keep them dry, because moon boots were a nightmare. Look cool as shit, but they're a nightmare. They did not work very well. The Stormtrooper works okay. I mean, like I said, some of the tech stuff is a little wibbly, but just the composite, but the story, the visual storytelling though here is just perfect. It's a very classic, almost EC, weird science or science fantasy panel down there with that like spacesuit. which is, it's all part of the, I mean, up there, spacesuit again, so that's Han in the spacesuit, but, yeah, on that panel right there, this, I love when you get rid of the panel lines. You don't need the panel lines. You've just got the figures, head to toe, full shot. It's still a medium shot, but it's a head to toe medium shot of all the characters in that scene. Not an elbow's not cut off, a foot's not cut off. Every character is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters, including this little droid. So 6 characters, figures in the foreground, no floor. The floor is the white background. Then you've got something for reference in the background to show the perspective. In this case, it's whatever that is in the back. A bunch of text stuff in the background. Or it's a castle or like Cloud City looking thing. I don't know what it is. But anyways, you've got that in the background. And in the placement of that, you know, on perspective, that's perfect one-point perspective there. And then you got these characters placed on that plane. Ah, God, that is like my ultimate favorite type of panel to draw, to see in a comic book. I love that. I mean, it's classic. Yeah, I guess it all goes back to what's his face. Not Prince. Oh, Prince Valiant, but he also did Flash Gordon. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the guy. The original classic comic or newspaper strip artist. Not oh God, what was his name? Not Terry and the Pirates guy. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm drawing blanks on names today, but you know what I'm talking about. The guy did Prince Valiant, and I guess he's the one. I guess he's the pioneer of that. And I would say that these guys are definitely not knockoffs, but these are definitely, him and Buscema are 2 comic book artists that seriously come from that school of thought, is that Prince Valiant and Flash Gordon comics, and you can see it in the work. And there's panels like that. Like I said, they use a lot of those type of panels in black and white for like chapter headings in fantasy and science fiction novels back in like the 70s. They would use those. Looks really, I love those. Those are so cool. That's the end of that comic. What are we on time here? 47. Okay, doing pretty decent. We're down to the last comic. Transformers, number 7. I did go back and get a good copy of it, so we're good here. You've got some hippies out in the forest here. Hippie ended up, I can't remember what they're there for. Yeah, they're college students. College students. These college students. Anyways, so anyways, Ratchet shows up. He's got, not Spike, what's his name? The same last name. Witwicky. What's his first, what did they call him back then? It wasn't Spike. That was from the cartoon. I can't remember what they called him. God, what is with me and names today? I was trying to remember Cindy Crawford yesterday, and for the love of me, I could not remember her name. And I'm looking it up online, and for some reason, every swimsuit model who did Sports Illustrated from the 80s popped up, except for Cindy Crawford. I'm like, did the internet just have a stroke just as much as I just did? But anyways, the Witwicky guy. Sprocket? No, that's not his name. Wasn't Spike, though. Anyways, so they show up. Who's the art in this? William Johnson. It's not terrible. It's passable. It's better than the last comic, by far. It's actually a little Alan Davis-y there, to tell you the truth. The characters don't have to have perfectly articulated faces, because the main stars of this comic are the robots. So as long as the robots are, and you can draw robots transforming that look vaguely close to the toy or the cartoon, I guess you're fine there. They're cooking hot dogs. Essentially, he comes in, they find these college students. I can't remember what they're looking for. Man, I just read this and I cannot remember what the story's about. Getting old, guys. I'm getting old. Oh yeah, that's right. So this one guy, so Soundwave disguises them. More Than Meets the, Robots in Disguise. This is back when the robots used to do robots in disguise. Look, it's a tape recorder. Some guy says, "Who left this tape recorder?" I'm going to put it in my locker inside the heavily protected building that's got beefed up security, like, you know, absurdly beefed up sci-fi security to prevent it against robots that attack it, who just attacked it the last issue. But there's this really big tape deck with a micro cassette recorder, but that thing is huge if you look at that last pan. It's the size of a jam box. It's supposed to be like this big. It's supposed to be a Walkman. The artists. Anyways, so this guy takes it in. He's like, oh, I'm going to listen to that later. I found this free radio. And then, oh, guess who it is? It's Soundwave. Oh, look at that. He got in past the defenses, and now he's going to let Laserbeak loose and do some laser beacon. And, you know, oh, how did he get in here? And he's killing all the Flight of the Intruder jets here. The Intruders. I can't remember their numbers. F-86? No, it's Saber jet. I can't remember what an F6, no, F-21, some weird number. The Intruder. Anyways, it's not important. So, that's great. I mean, so, like I said, this is good art. I look at that panel of Soundwave there in that bottom left panel. That person is definitely trying to channel a little Sienkiewicz with that Dazzler's, or whatever you call it, Dazzler's light projection effects on Soundwave's head there. What's his face looks great there. It looks so much better than that last issue. That panel up there, both those panels, Shockwave. Shockwave looks amazing there. Great work. That building looks cool. You've got oh, that's right. This. Oh, I remember what's happening here. Yeah. This is a lead up to. Spoiler alert, it's been 40 years. Anyways, this leads up into some other stuff that's going to happen. You'll see coming up. Optimus's head isn't all these. It's funny, you get all these Autobots that are all like strung up by their ankles, like they're like on meat hooks, you know, like bodies on. Looks like it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like Mecha Leatherface has all of these dead bodies, which they're not. I don't think they're all dead. They're all strung up, hanging by their ankles, ready for the slaughter. Let the slaughter begin. Sorry. And then you got Prime's disembodied head. Ratchet's like, no! But then he starts talking, and he's like, Ratchet. He's like, what? Oh, what? And he's like, get some Ratchet parts and start ratcheting thing. Not Ratchet. Yeah, it's Ratchet, right? Yeah, Ratchet. I'm thinking Wheeljack from in there. No, Ratchet. Ratchet, go get some Ratchet parts and start ratcheting. Anyway, so he does. And then you got Spike, not Spike, is having this conniption fit back at the garage here with his buddy, with what's his face, Foggy Nelson over here, black-haired Foggy Nelson. He keeps having these like headaches and stuff. I can't remember. I said it's been a while. Can't remember what the headaches mean. But is it like a connection with Ratchet? I don't think it is a connection with Ratchet. But then Megatron shows up. And instead of Megatron destroying Ratchet, he kind of like, I can use you type of thing. Because he's got Ratchet powers, because he's good at ratcheting. And then they show, okay, so here we go. So we're building up to the next issue. So as you can see, Shockwave goes back to Earth, or he comes to Earth at one point during the time that they crashed millions of years ago, prehistoric, and then he comes and he finds that the Ark has been making Transformers. This is different from the cartoon. The cartoon, Hound does it. I think it was Hound and Wheeljack. I think they get together. It was just Wheeljack gets together and does it with Spike. This is not Spike. Anyways, he comes and he finds that the Ark's been toying around with building these building Transformers based on what's around, and what's around back in those days, dinosaurs, which of course obviously what leads up to the next issue, which really, really rocked me in my socks when I saw it. And this totally makes sense because this plays on, like, I'll tell you the whole story. Again, I've told it in my Transformers story, a video if you want to go back and watch, but I'll tell it fresh as it evolves here in the next Transformer. So a month from now, and the next comic comes up, which will be the June comic, which sounds about right. But yeah, we'll talk about the Dinobots. And my Dinobots are put away. I don't feel like getting them back out. They're hermetically sealed and they're in my storage area, so I don't want to really dig them back out for the video. So because you're only going to see me hold them up a little bit. So I got the new Dinobots. I don't have all 5 of them. I've got the first 3, which to me that's all that matters. Because I only had the first 3. I don't think I had... No, I did end up getting the second 2 back in the day, but I've got the newer versions of them, the new Hasbro versions. So anyway. So as you can see here, next issue, In Search of Dinobots. Which, we'll get into that as well. Also, like I said, no, wait, what am I talking about? I'm 12 at the time, or I'm just about to turn 12. Sticks with my theory I used to have about dinosaurs and kids that are 12. Anyways, so let's go back and let's do the classic. Which comic books you should know by now? Which comic books did I buy off the shelf? Which ones did I get in subscription? And which ones did I pass on? Well, as you can see, Alien Legion, I may have had that comic, probably not, but I definitely passed. I passed on ElfQuest. I got the Fantastic Four. Can't read it today, but I got that issue right off the spin. Well, that wasn't a spinner. It was off the regular rack at Rochester Book Center. Iron Man 197. Didn't buy it. Defenders, I may have had that issue, just like Alien Legion. Got it in a pack, but didn't pay attention. Did not buy the Index. I don't think I bought that Peter Parker issue off the rack. Maybe because I had the Black Spider. I probably did. I'm not 100% certain on that one. To me, anything with Black Spider-Man in it was like I had to have it. So I probably did get that issue. I probably did. Yeah. And I probably read it back then, like I said. That's why it kind of still rings a bell. Rocket Raccoon I passed on. Secret Wars 2, I did. I bought it right off the rack. So it's 3 comics that I would have bought. Well, 2 definitely, possibly 3. But I did buy Secret Wars right up, just like I bought every one of them. I think the only one I didn't buy off from Rochester Book Center was, I think I bought one at Walden Books, which did have a spinner rack up in the front of the store near the magazines in the outlet to the mall. I did, I'm looking up, because I'm envisioning it in my head, how the store was laid out. I might have bought one there. I know I bought, because I flinched, but I did buy the very first official Marvel handbook, handbook to the Marvel Universe Deluxe Edition #1. I did buy it from that Walden Books, and I'll tell you when we get to that one, that's another story I'll save, but I don't know exactly which comic I got there. I don't think it was this one, but I did buy one at that Walden Books, and I want to say that I bought one in Ann Arbor, which we'll get to with my the Dinobot issue next month. Remember, so UK will discard Star Wars. I believe I still had this. My subscription, I think, went to the end of 85. Then it ran out. I didn't renew it in 86. I think the comic was just about. It ended in 86, which I did buy the final issue. I remember off the shelf, but my subscription had ran out in 86. Transformers UK, obviously, we're disregarding that, but Transformers 7, I had the subscription. And remember, I had the subscription since it came out. So 7, I renewed my subscription, I think, through 86. I don't think I renewed my subscription in 87 for Transformers. But that it gets into the... So anyway, there's a story behind the Dinobots, that next issue, and being in Ann Arbor with my sister, because she was at University of Michigan at the time. She would have been 85. This would have been her sophomore year. That makes sense. And we went to I used to get a lot of my comics from Village Corners, like older comics that I found, and I would anything that was older that I wanted to find, because I really didn't like going to the Troy Stamp and Coin then. But when I discovered Dave's Comics on the campus of University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, there, that was a place to go. Not realizing they actually had a Dave's Comics in Royal Oak, Michigan. But this is before I even went to Royal Oak back in the day. Another story. I got a million of them, but I'll tell you when it's pertinent for that comic coming up. But so those are the comics. It's been an hour. We're good. Let's stop there. Again, I didn't read a lot this week, which issues came out that I bought at the shelf? Fantastic Four, probably Peter Parker, and definitely Secret Wars 2. Star Wars and Transformers, which is the only comics I got this week, which is weird, because all the it's the extended universe stuff, as far as, Marvel Universe stuff at the time, and those are both subscriptions, so. Alright. I'll post this specifically on week 20, which is next week when it drops, and we'll keep going with these. All right, I will talk to you later. Remember, if you have any questions, got any stories or anything, hit me up in the comments. I think 25 people is about all I get on a regular basis, so hopefully at least 25 will come this week. All right, I will talk to you later. Bye bye.